Go to studentcam.org to watch all the winning videos and continue the conversation about today's documentary at our Facebook and Twitter pages. Well, the work week in the U.S. House is about to get underway. Members will begin with morning hour speeches now. Legislative business will start at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now live to the U.S. House.
The chair lays before the House a communication from the Speaker.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., April 24th, 2012. I hereby appoint the Honorable John Abney Culberson to act as Speaker pro tempore on this day. Signed, John A. Boehner, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Pursuant to the order of the House of January 17, 2012, the Chair will now recognize members from lists submitted by the majority and the minority leaders for morning hour debate. The Chair will alternate recognition between the parties, with each party limited to 1 hour, and each member other than the majority and minority leaders and the minority whip limited to 5 minutes each, but in no event shall debate continue beyond 1:50 p.m. The Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Dix, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert extraneous material in the record.
Without objection, it is so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to note the passing of a constituent and friend of mine who was a true friend and one of the great leaders of the city of Bremerton, Washington. Mel Wortman died last month at the age of 91, and he was remembered this past weekend at a service in Bremerton by his family and friends for his wit and for his many enduring personal relationships he developed over decades of working at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton, and during the years of service to many organizations in our community. I knew Mel for most of my life. He was a high school graduate of my mother's high school, and he always joked that he'd never have graduated if she hadn't helped him through math class. He was also a great friend of my father, and they were often enjoying their favorite pastime, fishing for trout out on Kitsap Lake. In fact, they had a secret formula that I'm sure that I'm hoping Mel will pass on to me. Mel served in the Navy in World War II before taking a job at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, eventually rising to be superintendent of Shop 31, which was the machine shop. Mel's personal advice to me ranged from pointers he gave me when I played sports with his sons, Dave and Gary, to the suggestions he offered when I was running for Congress, and later as a member of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, on important things we could do to make the shipyard in Bremerton function better. Mr. Speaker, Mel Wortman was one of the remaining members of this greatest generation of Americans who selflessly served in World War II and then returned home to raise families and pursue their careers without asking for thanks. I think it is appropriate once again for us in the House of Representatives to express our thanks to those great Americans as we note the passing of one of its finest, Mel Wortman. I submit for the record Mel Wortman's obituary as it was published in the Kitsap Sun, noting his wife Jane and the many members of his family who have lost a great patriarch. And I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Stearns, for 5 minutes.
Yes, unanimous consent to revise and extend.
Without objection, it is so ordered.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Last week, April 17th, was tax day when all hardworking Americans must file their taxes with the Internal Revenue Service. Ironically enough, April 17th was also Tax Freedom Day, the day when Americans earn just about enough earned income to pay off the tax bill for all federal, state, and local taxes. The first 111 days of the year, everything you and I and all Americans earn went to fund the United States federal government. In 1900, Americans paid about 5.9% of their income in taxes, and Tax Freedom Day came about 22 days into the year. It is a far cry, my colleagues, from what we have to endure in taxes today. Now, if you think 111 days to reach Tax Freedom Day is excessive, Just wait till next year. We are on the cusp of a tax Armageddon, or I like to call it a tax-mageddon. It's scheduled to hit on January 1st, 2013. It will be the largest tax increase in memory, possibly ever, $494 billion tax increase in 1 year. So when we talk about taxes, we usually project the increase or decrease in revenue over a 10-year budget horizon. But this $494 billion tax increase isn't over a 10-year budget window. It's an immediate, massive tax increase in 1 year. Now, where do these tax increases come from? There are a number of tax provisions that are set to expire at the end of this year. Unless action is taken to extend these provisions or make them permanent, it will lead to an unheard-of tax increase in January. About one-third of the tax increases will come from the expiration of the Bush tax cuts from 2001 and 2003. These tax cuts reduced the marginal rates for all Americans and expanded the child tax credit, reduced the marriage penalty, increased the tax base for education costs. The majority of the tax benefits in these tax cuts were targeted towards the middle and lower income tax folks. About a quarter of the tax increases will come from the expiration of temporary payroll tax cuts that was created just 2 years ago. Another quarter of the tax increases will come from the expiration of the alternative minimum tax. With all this talk about creating the Buffett rule, the President seems to forget that we already have the Buffett rule in the AMT. Now, the AMT was created in 1969 to ensure that 155 high-income households paying zero federal income taxes would pay income taxes. Unfortunately, it was never indexed to inflation. So more and more Americans become entangled in the AMT, and today the AMT threatens to hit most Americans in the middle class and is regularly patched to protect taxpayers but never repealed. So unless it is dealt with, it will impact millions of middle-class taxpayers. In 2013, we get a brand new tax courtesy of Obamacare. There will be a 3.8% tax on wages and salaries over $250,000 and investment income over that same amount. While this seems like it won't affect most people, this tax can apply to unearned income, like capital gains from selling your home, affecting middle-class families when they sell property. And like the AMT tax penalty, this tax is not indexed to inflation, which means that more and more Americans will be affected by this tax over time. We also see the return of the death tax to its pre-Bush levels when the maximum rate can be 55% of your estate. I believe there should be no taxation without respiration. That is, you have to be breathing. It is wrong to tax a business or family farm when it's transferred from parent to child. This tax has hurt family farms and family businesses where children have been forced to sell the businesses or farms because they could not afford to pay the death tax. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke has referred to all these expiring tax provisions as a massive, massive fiscal cliff. So when we talk about taxes, we usually project the increase or increases, but this is going to be immediate in the year 2013, January 1st. There has been a failure of leadership from the White House. The President's budget is full of election year gimmicks and unwillingness to try to address the oncoming tax-mageddon. Instead, the President doubles down on his election year rhetoric. He doesn't address the expiring taxes, instead proposes a slew of new taxes on Americans and companies. You do not raise taxes during a recession. Raising taxes will halt what little economic growth we have had over the last 3 years and return us to the days of double-digit unemployment.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to commemorate the 176th anniversary of the Battle of San Jacinto. Last Saturday, the state of Texas celebrated April the 21st, 1836. Texas forces led by General Sam Houston dealt a decisive blow to the General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. Several weeks after the signing of the Texas Declaration of Independence in March 1836, roughly 900 members of the Texas Army overpowered a much larger Mexican army in a surprise attack. Texas soldiers ran and shouted, "Remember the Alamo and remember Goliad." Some 700 Mexican soldiers were killed and 730 captured, while only 9 Texans died. General Santa Anna was captured the following day. He signed the peace treaties that ordered that the Mexican army to leave Texas, paving the way for the Republic of Texas to become an independent country and later a state in our great country. The battle is memorialized along Buffalo Bayou and the San Jacinto River with the San Jacinto Monument in East Harris County, and it's in our congressional district. God bless Texas and God bless the United States of America. I yield back my time.